Today, I'm going to be talking about a conciliatory kernel and some rules for radicals. I'm Granniopteryx. All right, so let's start with this. Talk TV and an interview with Colonel Ash Alexander Cooper.
Colonel Ash Alexander Cooper, who served 4 tours in Afghanistan and was a senior advisor to the Ministry of Internal Affairs there. Thanks for joining us, Ash. These are bad times for people of this country who wish to celebrate our traditions and who wish to spend this weekend thinking about their relatives, maybe their friends who lost their lives fighting for the freedoms that some of these bozos marching around for free Palestine want to kind of insult, if you like. What do you make of it all, and should they be allowed to march, do you think?
Firstly, I'd just like to say maybe a counterpoint to your perspective so far is that what we don't really need right now is more inflammatory language. That's not helping anybody. You know, I've lost...
Okay, that's enough of that. What we don't need now is more inflammatory language. That's the first thing he threw at that interviewer. When the only inflammatory language I've really heard is coming from the side of the people who are disrespecting Armistice Day. Well, it's not just Armistice Day. They've been filling town centres for weeks now with inflammatory language. I don't know where this guy is coming from, frankly. He's a soldier. I don't understand. And then later on in the interview, he asks people to be respectful. You see, the problem is that these people have no respect for British culture. And I'm not just talking about the Muslims. There will be among their number people who are British or ethnically English or Scottish or whatever. But they still have no respect for British culture. They think there might be something better. They are, of course, stupid and dead wrong, but that's their opinion. We are talking about people who do not respect what we respect, what I might say the majority of British people respect. So him saying, oh, please respect, this always reminds me of that thing where, you know those old science fiction films where you get this sort of War of the Worlds spaceship landing, and and it's landing there, and this is like from the 50s, and you get all these people in the local small town, and they're out around the field where this object is, and there's one guy who's saying we should be careful with that, and the local priest gets his Bible and starts muttering about the brotherhood of living creatures in the universe and sets out towards this monstrous invader from outer space, and he's the first who gets zapped. I mean, all you see is a sort of flash of light and then there's a hole in the ground. That's what this guy reminds me of. And he's not a man of God, he's a man of war. I mean, he might also be a man of God, but you see what I mean. His principal job is to, exert enough force so he doesn't have to kill people, and if necessary, to kill people. And he's talking about inflammatory language. And I just can't believe it. But after I saw this, I started considering why so many people are getting out on the streets. What's driving them? There are so many of them. And they were organised so quickly. Now, I've been told that this is the Iranian government that's been preparing this. I mean, they were out making parades in support of Palestine. And remember, it's not really in support of Palestine. It's in hatred for Israel. There is a difference. And they're out there, the day after. The attack was on a Saturday. On Sunday, there were already town centres filled with Muslims and Muslim allies. And I started looking round at stuff, and guess what I found? I found this. DSA International Committee. Now, a lot of these are American. I'm quite sure there must be stuff in Britain as well that I just haven't found. The Palestine Solidarity Toolkit. And here, you've got to take action for Palestine, and you have to remember to make these. You have to remember to make these points here. Messaging tips. Demand, we must stop arming Israel. I mean, they've got all these things, and you can take these and you can put them on your placards. So there's a whole load of stuff here for planning your demonstration. And then, so I thought that's interesting. And I found this, apartheid-free zones. Of course, they're always convincing themselves that Israel equals apartheid, which is total nonsense, but it gets into their heads. Toolkits for organisers. BDS means boycott, divest and sanction. Freedom, justice, equality. Yeah, like. Introduction to the AFZ campaign. What is an apartheid-free zone, and how to use the AFZ toolkit for organisers. And here they have maps of areas, in this case in Spain, where it's telling you it's an Israel-free zone. So that means there are no Jews there, basically. And they're giving you ideas for posters, general tips for AFZ campaigners. And then there's this one, introducing the BDS and Palestine Solidarity Working Group. And they have dozens of these. If you go onto Google and look for Palestine Solidarity, you'll find reams of the stuff, pages and pages on Google. And there's North New Jersey Democratic Socialists of America, Labour donated. This is an American one, but you can see it's all to do with the left. And of course, the people on the left do not respect the countries they're living in because they want them to be something else. So that's happening in America, and it's happening in Britain as well. So, and this one here. Now, this one was very interesting because it's a very professionally produced magazine. Look at it. And what it reminded me of, look at all these multicultural people here and all this. Yeah, it's very professionally produced and wonderful graphics and people wearing their Palestine scarves and holding their hands up in the air and all together. All these women will be wearing letterboxes, wouldn't they, if Hamas got in charge? And it reminded me of a magazine which I read called Dabiq, which was produced by ISIS. And it was an extremely professionally produced, well-written and full of great articles about how Islam would take over the world. And cooking tips. I think there was one woman there talking about cooking for Ramadan. They've got to let women in somewhere. And that reminded me of another book, Rules for Radicals, by somebody called Saul Alinsky. And if you've read Rules for Radicals, you'll see the same sort of stuff coming out here. And these are the rules. Now, see if any of them sounds familiar. Power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. And at this point, you remember what the police are doing. They're giving way. And they're giving way because they think that these crowds are going to be more powerful than they are. Never go outside the expertise of your people. Well, that's all right. We know that. Whenever possible, go outside the expertise of the enemy, and the enemy being the British people here. And this is outside the expertise because you have this colonel saying, be polite. That's his expertise, and they are going outside that. Make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. Well, we're discussing whether we can ban this march on Armistice Day because it's not right. That's what they're forcing us to discuss. Ridicule. Well, they're not so much into humour. A good tactic is one your people enjoy. And that's right, you see these crowds of people with the banging drums and the call and response shouts. That's all to keep you engaged, isn't it? You're enjoying that if you don't have much of a brain. Keep the pressure on. Yeah, well, the threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. We've been there as well. The major premise for tactics is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition. And remember, most of the people watching this video, including myself, are, as far as they're concerned, the opposition. If you push a negative hard and deep enough, it will break through into its counter side. This is based on the principle that every positive has a negative. Not entirely sure what he's saying there. Maybe somebody can answer in the comments. And I'm interrupting myself to remind you to click the like button. I am on other platforms and they're all in the description if you want to make note of them. You never can tell with YouTube. You can help this video and my channel by liking this video, by sharing it, by subscribing. If you're on YouTube, remember to click the bell button to get notifications. Okay, yeah. Back to the revolution. The price of a successful attack is a constructive alternative. Well, actually, I don't see them coming up with any constructive alternative, but that's just one point in a whole list here. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. And that's exactly what's going on here. The target is Israel. Just concentrate on that, concentrate on the Palestinians, and then polarize opinion on this by provoking people. And that's what they're doing. Remember that Syria had about 250,000 deaths from President Assad. Many of them actually Palestinians or people who are of Palestinian refugee heritage or ancestry or whatever. 250,000 at least. In Iraq, I don't know, it's maybe 500,000. And in Yemen, the bombing the Saudis were doing, the way they were attacking people, that was really carpet bombing. The terrible deaths, awful famine, just dreadful. Not a peep out of any of these guys. No, they are concentrating on Gaza, on the Palestinians, the real apartheid people. You see any Jews in Gaza? No. They're just focusing on this one idea. They're freezing it and then they're polarizing everyone. So they are going by a revolutionary handbook. We should be aware of that. And the fact that that colonel wants to make peace with these people, there is no making peace with them. These are people who appreciate power. That's all. If you show you have more power, they'll go quiet. When you try and be polite like that minister going out with his copy of the Bible, mumbling about the brotherhood of all living species in the universe, he's the first to get zapped, that minister. And people like that colonel, yeah, I'm afraid them too. Okay, yeah, that's it. Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.